I'm not gonna lie, I am pretty disturbed by these findings, but I am going to share them anyway. Make up your own mind. I have got my hands on a leaked autopsy report of large insectoid creatures captured in the USSR. This document surfaced in 1996. Its authenticity is still debated, but it contains highly specialized and technical information with a lot of discoveries made ahead of its time, such as the existence of haploids, half the number of chromosomes in somatic cells among worker termites. If it was faked, it required a large group of specialized expert biologists with a lot of time and effort involved. It contains so much technical information that it is unreadable for the general population, which raises more doubts about the intentional disinformation angle. Here is the first page of the report, 27 pages in total. Brief summary of the findings. Autopsy report describes an insectoid worker species reaching a length of 2.5 meters when its lower limbs are extended. These species are mostly closely related to termites. Their cells are much larger than the cells of known animals. Their sizes can reach 100 micrometers. A portion of its tentacle apparatus, not used for upper limb formation, has evolved into organs for breathing and vocalization. It's also bipedal, meaning walking on 2 feet. These creatures have developed exoskeletal structures, including limbs due to climatic changes, facilitating locomotion and leading to increased brain development. Their blood system is advanced, with specialized vessels and organs dedicated to efficient circulation and oxygenation. Basically, proto-lungs. This allowed them to adapt to lower oxygen environments underground and actually grow in size. They don't have a waste disposal organ. Instead, they secrete waste through their skin. That's why they have a terrible smell, which witnesses frequently report. Autopsy report contains much more specialized technical information, but I did not include it because it would not be readable for most people. If there are biology experts reading this, I will provide the links in the comments so that you can dive deeper. Edward Agon, PhD in biochemistry, analyzed this report and provided more context and photographic evidence in his Real Monsters book. His research led him to a conclusion that this report most likely originates in 1985 and was done in the Institute of Evolutionary Physiology and Biochemistry, named after I.M. Sechenova in St. Petersburg. He based it on analyzing funding patterns, personnel changes, and an underground secret complex built under the Institute during those years. He also attached photographic evidence of an autopsy of one of those creatures performed in field conditions. Note that due to the angle of the photo, the head of the creature appears much smaller than it actually is, which is roughly the size of a human head. Look at the fingers in the red circle in the left corner in the last image. The creature in the photo matches closely with the creature described in the autopsy report. Edward speculates that these beings originated roughly 200 million years ago and are closely related to modern termites. They were forced underground during the Permian extinction event and have been living there since, as they are best adapted to lower oxygen environments. Edward also noticed a lot of similarities with the leaked Q49-109A report by Dan Burish, where cellular structures of EBEs were analyzed, and their findings are remarkably similar to Soviet research, especially the cell size. Most likely, both Soviet and American researchers were looking at the same species. This is their speculated evolutionary tree. Now, the insectoid in an autopsy report was a worker, but they are part of a large caste system. They are much smarter, higher castes who possess advanced technologies and even perform religious rituals. Higher castes are bigger and have larger eyes, which make their heads appear more triangular. This makes them visually similar to a mantid, commonly reported by contactees and abductees. Now, for the disturbing part. These insectoids are predators. Their primary food source is the fluids of warm-blooded animals. It provides them with necessary nutrients and iron. Becoming a predator allowed them to have a much larger brain size, same as with our species. The mouth of a worker has 2 long fangs, which inject digestive fluid as well as a powerful pumping mechanism for sucking out body fluids. Their stomachs can hold up to 20 liters of liquid, which is pre-digested and can be thrown up so insectoids from other castes can consume it. Edward speculates that this is where the vampire myth came from. This also explains the chupacabra creature reported all over the world. They mostly attack livestock, but human casualties are also well documented. This is further proof of their crypto-terrestrial origin, as beings who evolve on other planets would not have the necessary adaptations for digesting Earth animals. This is an example of a bite of one of these creatures. However, the author speculates that this is not the main way to get food for their society. These are rather small hunting trips of their worker caste. Higher castes have much more efficient and industrial food processing methods. All those cattle mutilations by UFOs are not for research or biomaterial gathering purpose. They are large-scale food processing operations. This is also corroborated by abductees, such as Ted Rice and others, who witnessed large vats with human and animal body parts present in UFO ships. This could also explain a lot of missing persons cases and their interest in wars, conflicts, and natural disasters, which provides opportunity for people to go missing without drawing attention. Edward Agon and Anton Anfalov believe that Greys and Nordics are genetically engineered by insectoids and are treated as disposable workers. They can be easily controlled, and higher caste mantids don't care if they crash on ships and are retrieved by humans. The existence of predatory terrestrial insectoid species is the biggest secret which the government tries to hide from the general population. You can understand why, as it would rightly freak everyone out. Greys from outer space are being used as a cover-up story to divert attention away from the real origin and nature of these beings. This cover-up is also enforced by the insectoid race, as they would obviously prefer their prey to not have situational awareness. I will also add from my side that the general picture is probably much more complex and other species are involved too, but this may be one of the disturbing facts which we will have to face during disclosure. I forgot to include visual reconstruction of the creature based on the autopsy report. Please support the author, Edward Agon. You may not be able to buy his books because of sanctions, but if you can, please do. I'm less inclined to believe these beings evolved here. I am more inclined to believe they are using our underground caves to hide in because they are suitable to carry out operations from. It was a conclusion from the autopsy report. Their biology is too similar to Earth organisms, and they have an ability to digest terrestrial animals, which extraterrestrial species would not have. The only option to link them to extraterrestrials is if they are genetically engineered by their ET masters to be adapted to Earth, but that would be quite a speculative jump. The ability to digest something is a low bar to set. Surely any type of organic matter would be digestible. Not really. According to biochemistry, you need very specific enzymes and biochemical processes adjusted to Earth life. We can't even digest most of our species. We would get sick, and extraterrestrials being able to do that naturally would be a miracle. Remember that allies of humanity said that they can't live on the surface because they are not adapted to our planet. Why do you think they would be able to digest our food? It's even more unlikely. Connect the dots. That is assuming they can't just implant the necessary enzymes that they need, or that they are digesting it in a way we are familiar with, instead of using some other way. But yes, in general, we can only digest things that we are adapted to eat, and the physiology is Earth-like. The Declassified American Report, Q49-109, from 1994 to 1996, describes research on alien tissue samples. The cells of these aliens were unusually large and had multiple nuclei, and they were connected by structures that created a sort of external cytoplasm. The cells also contained special granules thought to store materials for replacing the cell's outer layer. A key discovery was the presence of reticular bodies, which were small, mitochondria-like structures attached to the network inside the cell. These structures were involved in energy production, but instead of making ATP, the usual energy source in cells, they produced GTP. The researchers also found that certain proteins, called ARF-GAP, were involved in managing the GTP process. It's unclear whether the researchers knew about these proteins at the time, but they played a significant role in how the alien cells functioned. The central nervous system, CNS of the aliens, as described in the report, has many similarities to that of insects, though it uses terminology common in the study of vertebrates. It is divided into several sections: terminal, interstitial, sensory, somatic, and visceral. The brain's most advanced part is the embrane, which is similar to the brain of higher animals and responsible for complex behaviors like speech and intellectual activities. The size and structure of this brain area vary among different types of aliens, just as brain structures do among different insect castes. The brain also includes the diencephalon, which is responsible for sensory processing, including a magnetosensory system that may allow the aliens to detect magnetic fields. The sensory part of the brain, which handles sight and antennae sensation, is similar to that of insects, with distinct lobes for vision and antennae control. The somatic brain controls movement and various functions like mouthparts and gills, while the visceral brain controls internal organs and metabolism. In terms of nerve signal transmission, the aliens' nerve fibers have unique characteristics. Multiple fibers combine to create a stronger signal, and they can either block or enhance synapse activity, depending on the stimulus. Despite the similarities to insects, the biochemical and physiological characteristics of the aliens do not have known counterparts in nature. This suggests that the information in the report comes from direct research, not fictional or speculative sources. The report strongly indicates that both Soviet and American researchers independently studied these insect-like beings, often under secrecy, and military efforts were made to conceal their existence. Dr. R. Sarsbacher, a former U.S. military consultant, also communicated about insectoid aliens, describing them as lightweight, with chitinous, tough skin, but the U.S. military suppressed this information. The capture of aliens, as described in the report, likely involved significant efforts by various specialized teams. While some aliens may have been obtained from the UFO crash sites, such as the insectoid creatures found in Varginha, Brazil, in 1996, it's more probable that they were captured from underground nests or cities where their civilization was hiding. The aliens are thought to live in oxygen-poor, high-humidity environments and can tolerate high carbon dioxide levels, suggesting that they may have built complex underground habitats. The idea of aliens living in underground structures is supported by reports from researchers like Vadim Chernobrov and Pavel Miroshnichenko, who have written about mysterious underground sites in various regions, including the Kola Peninsula, Crimea, and the Altai Mountains. It's speculated that military operations, such as underground explosions, may have inadvertently led to the discovery of alien populations. For example, nuclear tests conducted by the USSR in the 1960s and 1970s, including underground detonations in areas like Kibane in Kazakhstan, might have been attempts to eliminate these alien threats. One notable account involves Philip Schneider, a mining engineer who described an encounter with alien creatures during an explosion at a US military base in 1979. He claimed that a battle broke out between American forces and the aliens after they were accidentally disturbed in an underground nest. Schneider later revealed this incident publicly, despite being sworn to secrecy. Both the USSR and the US are believed to have constructed underground military facilities to study alien species, often under the guise of regular industrial or military projects. These facilities, hidden deep beneath ordinary buildings like livestock complexes, were equipped with life support systems and were heavily guarded. The exact details of when and how the aliens were captured remain unclear, but it is likely that secret operations led to their discovery in remote areas such as Central Asia and the Kola Peninsula. Despite the extensive knowledge of these secret operations, world leaders and intelligence agencies have remained tight-lipped about the existence of aliens. There was so much more in the document, but some of the language was quite complex, and I did my best to provide the interesting bits here and, make it understandable. But it was impossible to include everything in the document, so I will provide a link to the document down below if if you want to read it all for yourself. Be me, living in Mexico City where I was born. I am 7 years old, and my mama's mama is really sick. She had surgery in her pancreas, but the doctors are idiots, and they did not stitch her well, so the stitches come open. Mom has to clean her surgical wound, and I accidentally see her and Grandma crying. Feels bad, man. A week or so later, Grandma dies from the infection. Rip Grandma. My dad has been living and working in the USA for about 2 years, and gets kicked by an ostrich because he is a dumbass and did not close the ostrich gate correctly. Asked Mom to go take care of him in the US like a baby. At the same time, one of my uncles invades the house we live in with his soccer team of a family. He has 10 sons and 1 daughter. Girl cousin is the youngest and the most spoiled, yet somehow she is still a good cousin and shares with me and my 2 sisters. All of our kids are not spoiled, but are more rotten than rotten.com. In Mexico, most poor people will keep their recently dead in their home for 7 days so the family can come and mourn the deceased. This is the excuse my uncle used to move into our house. All the bedrooms are upstairs, and the kids all sleep in one room. During the time Grandma's coffin is in the home, us kids hear her calling to us by name. Anon, I want to see you, says Grandma. Cry.exe. Anon, go see what Grandma wants, says human garbage cousin. Fuck that shit. Trash cousins begin to take me downstairs. I hold on to them for dear life. Firmly grasp it. We are in it together. As the week passed, we became more brave and investigated where Grandma's voice was coming from. Never saw anything, but heard her calling us all week by name. After we bury Grandma, the voices stop, but Uncle's family remains. We'll continue. Girl cousin has a stupid looking doll that she carries with her everywhere, and plays with all the time. Pick related, it's one of the dolls. This shit doll is made of cloth, and has 2 faces on the opposite sides of the head. One is awake, and the other is asleep. Be a few months later. Mom has left to the US and left us with the soccer team family. Fuck my life. A very famous and popular singer releases a new song. Obviously, song is a big hit, and we kids actually like the song. We are playing on the roof of the house, cause Mexican houses in the city are flat on the top. Uncle built a small shed for us kids to play in, and we turned it into a playhouse. One day, we are playing like morons on the roof, and we decide to sing, cause we are kids. Lungs at max efficiency. Suddenly, shut the fuck up, stupid kids, is heard from the shed. There is no one in the shed, cause we are all singing together like idiots. Silence.mp3. Can't you see that I'm trying to sleep? We Usain Bolt out of there. Girl cousin grabs the doll and starts running downstairs. One of her many brothers stops her and takes the doll from her. Generic brother throws it back upstairs and we run outside. Aunt and uncle are out getting groceries. We are a bunch of stupid kids, scared shitless, and alone in the streets because we are too scared to go back into the house. A family friend is passing by and sees how startled we are, so he stays with us until Aunt and Uncle come back. Aunt is pissed at us being outside and asks why we left the house. The doll yelled at us, we say. What the fuck are you guys on about? It's a stupid doll, Aunt yells. You guys better get back inside or I'll beat you all. Reluctantly go back inside. We go back upstairs and the doll is not there. Fucking doll is back in the bed girl cousin made for her. Fuck this shit. The following week, girl cousin comes home from school and her doll is gone. Aunt tells her she threw it out cause it was old and dirty. Girl cousin cries like a little girl cause she is one. A few days later, I hear Aunt telling other aunt why she threw the doll away. Be Aunt. Have to take care of entire soccer team, mostly by myself. Team is not even good, mostly stupid kids. Come home one day from getting groceries with husband and see kids outside with family friend. Yell at them and tell them to go back inside. Stupid ass kids. They say that one of the dolls yelled at them. Yeah right, .png. Be a few days later. Stupid kids left their stupid toys all over the place. I can't even. Start picking up the toys like a maid. Stop making noise. Can't you see I'm sleeping? All of my wants. See stupid dirty doll sleeping. Keep cleaning, but I am fucking scared. I told you to let me sleep. Look at stupid doll, and it is awake now. How the fuck? Oh fuck no. I will not have this shit in this house. Take stupid dirty doll to the trash man as he comes by once a week. Very convenient. Only daughter is super sad over the stupid dirty doll. She'll get over it. Never see doll again. This is my last story. If I can remember any others, I will post them. I hope they were scary/funny. Yes, these things actually happened to me. The haunted stretch of road in Houston, Texas. It's called Patterson Road. It sounds basic when you read it, but it's pretty nuts. Basically, you go to this road, over by Bear Creek, if any Houston-and-ons are in this road, and you turn the car off. No engines, no lights. The road is kind of rural, not much around. Eventually, you will hear tapping at your window, or else you'll hear what sounds like people running across the road in front of your car. It's fucking crazy. I've been several times. Sometimes you hear nothing, but sometimes there's tons of activity. It's dark out there too, pretty spooky, but I don't know why sometimes there's no activity. Someone told me it was an old Civil War site, so maybe that has something to do with it. Similar to that, Snake Road in Chesterfield, VA, you were supposed to stop your car at a certain point, cut the engine and lights, and say I killed your baby 3 times. There were different outcomes depending on the teller. Car would not start, tapping on the window, handprints on the car. Fellow Houston guy, can confirm that Patterson Bridge is haunted. Went with just one buddy of mine in his truck a few years back around 2 a.m. Turned off lights and sat on the bridge. We waited something like 40 minutes and were in the middle of shooting the shit when we heard the tapping sounds from aft right of the truck. Sounded metallic and paced quicker/more frequently than what I was expecting. Buddy got too spooked, so we bolted off and went to Whataburger. Other friends of mine have reportedly heard voices and seen apparitions there. The most eerie place of all is the former Jeff Davis Hospital, built in 1924 atop Houston's original graveyard from the 1840s to 1880s that contains many Confederate veterans, which was renovated into the Elder Street Lofts. I had friends that briefly lived there, so I visited once during an after party that they threw. Following a Frankie and the Witch Fingers sack rock show, the band came by to hang/crash. I did not have any particular spooky experiences, but that place feels extremely unnerving just walking through the halls. My hair was standing on end anytime we left the apartment for a smoke break or something like that. My friends only lived there for a few months before moving. Back when the hospital was abandoned and closed off, a lot of urban explorers used to break in and report experiencing all sorts of crazy shit. I think I even heard that it was considered one of the most haunted buildings in the Southwest United States. Aside from that, there's also the haunted aircraft hangar that the Texas Air National Guard use at Ellington Field in southeast Houston. They usually don't have a night shift there, but occasionally, a few folks may stick around on certain occasions to catch transient cargo aircraft landing at night or something. I've heard stories of people seeing full or partial apparitions in the upstairs hallways late at night. Might be dead pilots, since there was a pretty bad accident where an old F-01 or F-102 exploded in the 70s. Gonna greentext my account at the request of these 2 anons. Thanks to the other Houston guys for contributing. Interesting stuff. My story won't be as good. Friends and family know that I'm notoriously bad at telling stories, but I'll try my best. Been to Patterson Road several times. This was the first. Caught my GF in the physical act of cheating on me in our own apartment. He was a guy we worked with. Not that it matters to the story. I just want to call her a whore while I can. Anyway, I drove around for hours trying to get my head straight. I worked in Katy at the time, and I guess my mind switched to autopilot and I wound up on I-10 West. Realize what the fuck I'm doing and pull off. End up on Patterson Road. It's about 8 p.m. by this point. The sun is still out, but close to sundown. I'm feeling mentally and emotionally spent. I pull off to the side of the road, and without meaning, I just fall asleep. Wake up. It's dark outside now. I like how isolated the place feels. Put on some sad music, cry about my cheating whore GF. After a little while, it begins to sound kind of like it's raining. I'm hearing little taps all over the car. I'm pretty zoned out listening to music, but I realize at some point that it's not raining at all. Still hearing the taps though. Shut off music and listen. It sounds like someone is absolutely pelting the car with little pebbles or something. I hear it all around the car. Rear window, front hood, passenger window, driver's side door, etc. At this point, all I can think is it has to be rain, maybe hail. Only I don't see shit, so I step out of the car to check. Sound stop. Happened really suddenly too. Like I heard the taps all around me, and then they just all stopped at once. Figured I was just hearing shit. Leave, and end up getting shit-faced at some shit bar. That's it. I went back a bunch of times, and I heard the same thing again. Maybe a total of 4 times, I think. I have never posted this story before, but this thread got me in the mood. My family has owned this vacation house on the Oregon coast since the 1960s. Naturally a dreary place. The neighborhood was heavily wooded, and only about a half-mile inland from the water. There are a few houses dotted around the woods. One has always stuck out. It has been abandoned and boarded up my entire life. It always had an ominous vibe. Even the adults did not like hanging out near the place. There were even a couple weather-worn wooded headstones on the property, which I always thought was odd. My friends and I used to like to try and freak each other out by making dares on who would get closest to the house. I even remember seeing figures in the second-story windows at some points in my life. Always an unsettling place. One day, my friend John and I are bored at the coast. We are probably about 8 years old, and we decide to go spook ourselves at the house. We walk down the gravel road to the house, but something is different this time. The unsettling aura is completely gone. I even remember the weather clearing up and the area being covered in a warm misty moss. Shortly after we arrive, a girl wearing a blue dress walks out from behind the house. She was our age, and she claimed that she and her family lived in the house. My friend and I were confused because this place had been boarded up for as long as we could remember, but she seemed not to hear us. She asked us if we would join her for a tea party in her treehouse. We were surprised, as we had never noticed a treehouse on the property before, but we joined her and hung out for what seemed like a few hours. It was getting late, and we needed to eat. We invited her to join us for food, but she said her parents did not want her to leave the property. We asked her if she could ask her parents about it, but she dismissed the idea. We left, had dinner, and told our parents about what happened. I remember my mom was disturbed by the story. Sure enough, the next day, we returned to the house, and it had returned to its ominous state. We looked for evidence of our new friend, but there was no trace of her at all. The only clue that was left to us was the treehouse she had taken us to in the backyard. It was still there, but it was completely overgrown, entirely dilapidated, and falling apart from years of near constant rainfall and salt air. We tried to climb up to the treehouse, but it was too far gone and unsafe. My friend and I both remembered the story vividly, but we had a big falling out in middle school, and we have not spoken since then, so I have no idea what he thinks about it. Looking back, it feels like a totally benign experience. I'm not sure if it was a ghost or an incident of isolated time travel. It has always felt like one of the most true paranormal events of my life.